People often call Britain, or the United Kingdom, England. But in fact, England is only one of the 4 countries that form the United Kingdom. This is Hadrian's Wall in the north of England. It was built by the Roman Emperor Hadrian, and it formed the northern border of the Roman Empire. Because the Romans never conquered the land to the north. Today, we call that country Scotland!
I'm not English, I'm Scottish.
I'm Scottish.
I'm Scottish.
For hundreds of years, England and Scotland were 2 separate countries. There were many wars between them, but Scotland remained an independent country until the beginning of the 17th century. In 1603, however, the thrones of the 2 countries were united. It happened like this. In the 16th century, there had been a king of England called Henry VIII. Henry had had 3 children, Mary, Elizabeth, and Edward. Each of these had become king or queen of England, but none of them had had any children themselves. So when the last of the 3, Elizabeth, died in 1603, the English government had to find the nearest relative. Now, Henry VIII's sister, who was called Margaret, had married James IV, the King of Scotland. Their son was James V. He was followed by his daughter, Mary, Queen of Scots, and her son was James VI, who was the nearest relative. James, who was already the King of Scotland, now became the King of England too. So the 2 kingdoms of England and Scotland were united. That's why it's called the United Kingdom. We can see this in the British flag, which is formed from the blue and white Scottish flag and the red and white English flag. These were later joined by the Irish flag to form the Union Jack. The Union of England and Scotland was finally completed with the Act of Union in 1707. But although the 2 countries have been united for nearly 400 years now, a lot of things are still different here in Scotland.
One of the main differences is the education system. We do standard grades and they do GCSE, and we do higher and they do A-level, and they do it all 1 year ahead of us.
There's more countryside in Scotland than in England because the towns are smaller here.
There's a large population difference between Scotland and England because there are more people live in Greater London alone than live in the whole of Scotland. The countryside in Scotland, I think there's a lot more of it because the cities aren't as big and the population isn't as condensed in certain areas.
Languages. We have Gaelic, but they don't actually speak any other language down in England.
The legal system's different. In England there's just guilty or not guilty, but up here we have guilty, not guilty, or not proven.
Another difference is the money. They have pound coins and we have pound notes.
Some quite big differences in buying and selling houses. When you want to buy a house in Scotland, you make a bid that you feel that the house is worth, and that's your only bid. And you don't know what other people have bid, so you can't bid against them. But in England, it's like an open bid system, and you bid as much as you want, and you can bid twice because you know who else has bid and how much they've offered.
Also in football there's a separate team for Scotland and England. It's not like a big British team.
What things are typical of Scotland?
Shirt rides, kilts, bagpipes, dancing.
Cold weather, tartan.
The mountains, the whiskey.
Hogmanay on New Year's Eve and singing Auld Lang Syne afterwards when it's 12 o'clock.
Tartan, Drambuie, Cold weather.
When we think of something that's typical of Scotland, we usually think of bagpipes and whiskey, and most of all of this, the kilt. The pattern of stripes on the kilt is called a tartan. Each clan or family has its own tartan. My surname, Hutchinson, is a Scottish name, and we're part of the MacDonald clan, so this is the MacDonald tartan. The kilt is very heavy. It's made of thick woolen cloth. It hasn't got any pockets, so the Scotsman also wears this bag. It's called a sporran. So we can see that Scotland has kept a lot of its own separate culture, but some people would like to see more than that. I'm now at a very famous place in Scottish history. It's called Bannockburn, and it's near the city of Stirling. At the end of the 13th century, the English king, Edward I, had conquered Scotland. But the Scots didn't want an English king. They wanted their own king, who was this man, Robert the Bruce. Robert the Bruce gathered an army, and in 1314 he defeated the English here at the Battle of Bannockburn. And Scotland remained independent then for the next 300 years. The old dreams of Scottish independence haven't died. In the 1970s, the British government agreed to give Scotland its own parliament. This was called devolution. The Scottish Parliament was going to be in this building behind me, but it never happened, because not enough people supported devolution in a referendum. How do the people of Scotland feel about independence today?
Well, I think we're quite capable of running our own affairs, and I think it would benefit this country, both from the point of view of education, job prospects, what actually happens in this country. I think it would be much better ruled here in Edinburgh than 300 miles away in Westminster.
I feel Scotland should be independent because I don't reckon it should be run by people down London. Scotland should have some say in the running of its own country.
I think we're much too small a country. After all, it's the United Kingdom, and I don't think Scotland should be independent. I think that's a ridiculous idea.
Frankly, I don't think Scotland should be independent because I think we've gained a lot from the Union, the Active Union, the Union of Parliaments. And I think if we were to lose our independence, if we were to gain our independence, we would find it quite difficult to fight our corner in Europe especially.
I think we depend on England quite a lot, and in return we of course supply other needs to England, but all in all I think it's quite a good combination.
Will Robert the Bruce ever look out over an independent Scotland again? The English king, Edward I, had conquered Scotland. Henry had had 3 children. Henry VIII's sister, who was called Margaret, had married James IV. James, who was already the King of Scotland, now became the King of England too. We can see this in the British flag, which is formed from the blue and white Scottish flag and the red and white English flag.